Sometimes we forget and sometimes we feel like God is not with us, but knowing all these stories and how God have shown himself to other people, it could remind us that God is there no matter what. We just need to talk to him.
A few weeks ago, we had the privilege of taking a team of 10 high schoolers to New York City. We were part of what was called Culture Camp, put on by Envision, which is part of the CMA. And the idea of the camp was to bring groups from all over the country together to have a cultural immersion experience in New York City. We stayed at New York School of Urban Ministry, and all throughout the week, we were assigned a people group that we were to be immersed in. And our group was Himalayan Buddhism. And so we spent the week going to their cultural centers, going to their places of worship, eating at their restaurants, and going to the parks where they hung out.
Throughout the week, we had the opportunity of witnessing the students on this trip grow in their walks with the Lord. It was incredible to see the humility and the teachability each day that these students expressed. In the mornings, we would have trainings where the students would learn a new skill in sharing the gospel within this people group. And in the afternoons, they would get to practice this skill. And it was such a blessing for us to get to see these students walk out their faith on the streets of New York City.
Culture Camp was basically like a little camp we all went to at NYC, and a bunch of kids from other Alliance churches would come, and basically learning how to love people from a different community or a different background than you, and just learning what other cultures are like and how to love them best.
We went to this Nepali community church, and we met this really cool kid. His name was Sean. He was like the only kid in the entire church. And we just turned around and we saw him, and he was like super nice and like immediately started talking to us. The pastor had us, he told everyone to stand up and go find new seats. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go sit with Sean. And then after the service, we had a potluck downstairs, and we sat with him, all of us youth, sat with him and talked to him. And yeah, just got to learn like what his life is like in the middle of downtown Queens, you know. I got his Instagram, so I was able to message him through Instagram. And at one point, I think I'd mentioned that we were gonna go to a park, and he was like, oh, you guys should tell me like which park, like maybe I could show up.
I thought it was really cool because we got there and the first person I saw was Sean, dude we met at church 2 days before, which I was not expecting that. And he was like doing everything we were doing with us, you know?
Our goal was to connect with the people there and then ultimately pray for them.
Just being able to minister to people who were broken and lost, even just handing out free waters and just getting to know people.
It was a little daunting at first just to be able to go up to strangers and like connect with them, but then pray for them.
First day we mainly just like kind of broke the ice almost, learned people's names, learned stuff about them, played volleyball or basketball with them. And then we go back on the second day and they're there again and they're like asking all these questions. Sometimes they would even ask questions about who Jesus is, which was really cool to see. I guess going 2 days, it really allowed to kind of build a little trust.
I met David at a park in Queens during our park ministry. The first day we were there, we really didn't talk about the gospel much, but we came back the next day. Comes up to me right away, he's like, dude, this like crazy old Christian lady just tried to convert me. I was like, oh yeah, I don't think she's with like Summit. Like, no, she's not with us. And so then I asked him like, what do you believe? Because I really wanted to, instead of making it more of a shallow conversation, kind of try to bring it deeper slowly, which wasn't super slow, but I asked him, yeah, what do you believe? Like, are you Muslim or Buddhist? He said, well, I'm a little lost right now. I don't know exactly what I believe. Technically I'm a Buddhist, but I haven't really committed to any religion. And I said, okay, have you ever thought about Christianity and so on? And that really opened a gateway into talking to him about Christianity, and right away he just started like asking questions, question after question. So many I couldn't answer them all at one time. It turns out after the first day of talking to him, one of the other like leaders at the culture camp who wasn't with Summit, went over and talked to him, and they started talking about the gospel, and turns out Sam prayed for him. Just that conversation opened it up the next day for me, so I was able to talk to him as well about the gospel.
There was one day where I sat down on a bench and just kind of, was praying a little bit and just wanted to be still, just kind of be a little more in the moment. I mean, I remember praying for just kind of peace, to not have any expectations, just to kind of God, what do you want us to see? What, give us your eyes. I mean, within minutes, really, this man came walking by, and I looked over at him, made full eye contact with him, kind of a little smile. He responded, and then he walked right over to me. I mean, it was as if I was a friend that he was waiting for. But he came over, he sat down, and we had a conversation for about an hour and a half. About halfway through the conversation, I was kind of praying in my mind, God, steer this towards you, and he did, and I was able to ask him about, does he go to church? Does he have a faith? And when he found out that I was a believer, that I was a Christian, it's like his eyes just lit up. And kind of find out that this man, his name is David, has been searching. It's like he's not a believer yet, but he's curious, and he's just wanting to talk about it, and hadn't had a lot of opportunities to, and here was a chance to. So it was just really interesting how all of that kind of came together. And as we parted ways, he even said to me, he's like, God brought us together. And he was kind of he was Chinese, so he had broken English, but that was a pretty powerful moment. And I feel like, just having this opportunity to just, again, be still and to look around kind of led to that. And we still text. So I don't know where it's going, but it was a really neat experience.
We were going to this community center to serve and just help them out with anything they needed. And there was this volunteer named Tenzin, and she kind of just followed me around, and I thought it was kind of cool, but I saw it as an opportunity to minister to her. So I just kind of talked to her about faith, and she quickly changed the subject and didn't want to talk about it. So I just talked to her about life and stuff, and so she followed us to the park. We were praying for people at the park, and she just continued to stick with me. So then I hoped she would come back the next day, and she did. She told me that she saw something different in our group, and she saw the way that we loved her, and she didn't know why, and she said that she could trust us, and she just saw real joy in our group, which was really powerful. And so I asked her if I could pray for her, and she said no the first time, but the second time I asked, and she said yes. And so I prayed for her, and by the time I looked up, she was in tears. So I saw God move in that.
At our morning training time, and this man named Dawood came in front to tell us, his testimony. So he was from Senegal. He used to be a Muslim, and when he was 14 years old, he went to this boarding school where his roommate was a Christian. His friend influenced him to go to church, and when he went to church, he actually was what, I think I want to be a Christian. His family kicked him out, and his dad threatened him. He was homeless, hopeless. He didn't know what to do. I think now I'm just gonna go back and be a Muslim. When he said that, he saw a light in the sky where he saw somebody come, but he couldn't see his face because there was light. And after the sky was closed, he said, "I'm Jesus" in the sky. And after that, he felt relief. He felt as if God was there, and God heard his prayers, and Jesus was with him, and he was alive. And that was just an amazing moment for me.
So one day during the week, we had this opportunity to go around the city to pray for people. At first, I was kind of afraid to pray out loud because I thought people would be judgy or look weird looks. And then I just prayed to God to just ask for his presence to be with me. Almost the end of the prayer work, I just felt God present, and then I overcome that fear, and then I prayed out loud, and then I just realized whatever you ask for, God will give it to you.
One of our devotions was about humility, and that really stuck out to me because a lot of the times I don't have humility, and I'm really quick to judge other people, or if they can't do something cool for me, then dude, I don't want you. But just learning how to be humble and put others first, and just love people for no reason. I think that was a really cool goal I have set for New York.
On Tuesday, I believe, we went to our morning devotion, and we were talked about treasure hunt praying. And what that is you pray to God and you have him reveal someone, something matching a specific description, and you look for that and you pray for it. And when I did my treasure hunt prayer, God revealed to me a man who was wearing a yellow shirt, and I was like, a little weird, but we'll go with it. I looked for 2 days straight, not seeing anybody. Culture camp ended, and we were gonna have our fun time going to Hamilton on Broadway. And when we entered the theater, a couple rows ahead of us, there was a man wearing a yellow shirt, and I was like, are you serious? I haven't seen anybody wearing a yellow shirt for 2 days straight. During the intermission, I went up and prayed for him, and that was a pretty cool experience because it was like, yeah, God listens.
After a week in New York City, you'd think that we would be exhausted and ready to be home, which we were in some ways. However, as a team, we were stuck in the LaGuardia airport for about 24 hours and then in Dallas for another day.
Unprompted, these students took steps towards others in the airport to have meaningful and spiritual conversations with them.
We were like waiting for the flight to come. We saw this man, he was sitting alone. I saw him and I really wanted to talk to him. So I said hi and like kinda invited Sandrine, Margaret and Oliver. His name was Cheka, he's from Senegal. And we had like a really good conversation. We got to know him. He's a Muslim. I kinda asked him how he thinks about Christians, and he was like he has nothing against Christians. We kind of asked if we could pray for him, and he said yes. After that, we kind of like hopped in the airplane, and when I was walking to my seat, he saw me and he was smiling, and he told me, don't forget about me when you go home. Still, keep praying for me.
The students continued to express and show the love of Christ to the people around them. They used those delays as an opportunity, and they approached individuals and asked to pray for them. They had conversations about the gospel with individuals. They were so incredibly intentional, and it was such a proud moment for us as leaders to just see these students go out there and be bold in their faith and continue to share, even though there were some discouraging travel delays.
What I learned through New York was that planting seeds is really important, because if the seed isn't planted, then nothing can grow. And I think God is just showing me that staying consistent and just trying to be attentive to the Spirit, just waiting to plant seeds. And even if I don't see the outcome of that, the seeds are what's important.
I saw God moving through these students in a way that is just not a normal way for kids their age to act. You know, there was this awkwardness, it's uncomfortable, and a lot of times you just want to play basketball, you just kind of want to be in your own little circle with your own friends. And I didn't see any of that. The outreach that these kids did was phenomenal.
One of the points made throughout Culture Camp was how to bring this experience and the training received into everyday life. And we heard many of the stories of how God was using it in New York City to make kingdom impact. But one thing that we're so encouraged by is to know that this was more than just a week-long experience. It was an investment that's going to be sown into the students' lives as they learn who they are and how God is calling them to live out these things in Missoula and beyond. So we just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for making this investment in students' lives. Thank you for all the many ways that you have showed up and poured into them, caring for them, whether it was maybe even giving towards their financial goal or praying for them, encouraging them, asking them questions about how this trip went. Thank you for caring for the students at Missoula Church.